What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another live episode of Armchair Producers, episode 67. I am one of your hosts, George Tarrant, alongside the man, the myth, the true Australian legend, Mr. Travis Croft. How are you, sir?
I am fine and dandy, and Australian legends everywhere might have an issue with that.
Well, they can go and get bent.
Well, yes, I mean, that's a common Australian pastime, but, you know.
How's the slow regeneration of normality treating you?
Normality?
Yeah, well, that's we generally shied away from even before the pandemic, you know.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, it's always memes where, like, when isolation's over, the guy staying on the front porch and then turning around, going straight back inside again.
Yeah. It's like, I'm free! I'm going to go inside.
There's games to be played. So yeah, look, it's nice. I occasionally now getting out to go and visit the occasional person. Mm-hmm. I rival potential podcast I may be working on with a friend of mine called Steak Nights, which may not be a podcast yet. It's not a podcast yet, maybe. But we go out and we try all the steak nights in Melbourne. But we are the Steak Nights with a K. And we finally got to our first steak night in several months last night. So even though we had to eat in her apartment rather than in the restaurant, so it's nice to get out and about a little bit and visit people and see people.
Fair enough.
They technically in a couple of weeks we're getting football back here in Melbourne.
That's true, yes, and I'm sure that it won't be long before you continue the onslaught against Carlton.
Carlton. Worth my time.
Please! The amount of anti-Carlton memes that you put on Facebook.
Oh, well, that's just because they're a laugh, right? They're that lame, but it's just pity.
That's fair. Now, should we start talking about our most recent 1980s movie?
We may as well. Okay. And I should think it's worth noting that I'm responsible for this again.
That's true.
So, I guess just the way we've kind of got to do this habit now of chaining films. So we watched Streets of Fire with Michael Paré, mm-hmm. and we segued that into the Philadelphia Experiment.
Yeah.
The Michael Paré, a dollar store Sylvester Stallone. And then we moved from that being a film about soldiers from the 40s and a ship coming to the 80s. We now have watched a film about a ship and sailors from the 80s going to the 40s.
Yes.
There's no Michael Paré, unfortunately, in this film, but that doesn't improve the experience.
That is sadly true. I mean, you've got two screen legends in this of Kirk Douglas and Martin Sheen. Those two are pretty heavy hitters, especially back in the day. And yet this is true. This is the true proto Top Gun. Top Gun. It's not Top Gear.
This was made in 1980, so it's several years before Top Gun, about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
But yes, I actually had that thought. So that's what. So if you're for those playing along at home, that is going to be a film we will watch next week.
Yes.
And I think we're probably starting to get into slightly better territory there. But you know what? I've never seen Top Gun, start to finish.
Top Gun.
I've seen bits of it. I don't go sat through the whole thing from start to finish because it looks kind of dull. But it's probably also topical considering apparently there's a sequel coming out.
Yeah. Well. When it's coming out, who knows at this point? But it's there with
made. For those who will play, the Final Countdown is another one of those films I think I watched when I was a kid and really enjoyed because I think at its core it has a really interesting premise.
Yes.
Similar to the one from last week, but basically, as IMDb says, a modern aircraft carrier is thrown back in time to 1941 near Hawaii, just hours before a Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Yeah. So we have at the start of the film, Martin Sheen is some sort of efficiency expert analyst who has been tasked by Howard Hughes-esque get on board the aircraft carrier, the USS, and observe how they do things. And while he's on board, the ship encounters I guess what in Star Trek would be called a temporal anomaly.
Yes, definitely. It had that very traditional kind of graphic look.
It looked like a temporal anomaly.
Yeah.
Which is a storm at sea that comes out of nowhere, and they sail through it and find themselves in 1941, December 1941. As it says, maybe a matter of hours before the attack on Pearl Harbor, and we see them wrestle with the concept of what's happened. Is this real? How is this happening? And slowly coming around to the truth of the matter that they are in 1941, and then coming around to the second part of what they must wrestle with being, what do we now do with this information? Yeah. Considering they fully kitted out aircraft carrier from 1980, and basically, I found myself going, well, I wonder how they would go against the Japanese fleet. And considering they had jets and shit, they basically figured out that they could probably take out the entire Japanese attack force.
Yeah.
And potentially their naval task force without really breaking much of a sweat.
Yeah.
And then the question they sort of start to ask themselves, but in a very clumsy manner, is this something we should do? In amongst this, we have some civilians they encounter.
Yeah. Both. We're talking about ramifications of that with who this civilian is and the kind of the hypothetical potentiality of him becoming the next president and all that sort of stuff. But it never really gets past the concept phase.
No,
it's a great idea, and it's the characters are asking some really interesting, thought-provoking questions of, if you could go back and stop something as literally world-changing as the events of Pearl Harbor, would you do it? And kind of Kirk Douglas's character, who's the captain of the Nimitz, he kind of staunchly of the opinion, whatever time I'm in, I'm going to protect America and her interests, which kind of makes sense, but they don't really kind of expand any of the characters to a point where you understand their personal politics of it or anything like that. And Martin Sheen's character is kind of antagonistic for no particular reason. Certainly not that I really gathered.
No, he's not given a lot to do.
None of them.
No one's given him very much. Kirk Douglas isn't given very much to do. The Back to the Future dealt with this a lot better, right? The key, I think we've said this before in other episodes where we've talked about time travel films, is you really probably don't want the audience spending very long worrying about the grandfather paradox, right? What happens if I go back and kill myself in 1941, or my parents in 1941 before I'm born? You don't, because that will really, because it is a difficult philosophical question, and you don't want people agonizing over difficult philosophical questions, unless that's what your film's about. Primer, if that's your film. If you're making Primer, then yes, you can do it. But if you're making an action movie set on an aircraft carrier, you probably don't want people thinking about that. No. But I think you need to deal with it.
Yeah.
And you need to sort of, that cool little scene in Back to the Future 2 on a chalkboard with Doc Brown drawing on a chalkboard in the library. There you go. It's a 2-minute scene and it's done, and we buy that because it was done so well.
Yeah.
Where I think this film potentially maybe lost that angle of maybe addressing some more interesting questions, or a more interesting exploration of what a cool idea it is to go back in time and blow up the Japanese fleet, is that this is essentially in my mind is a glorified recruitment video for the US Navy. Which is exactly what Top Gun is going to be next week as well.
Yeah.
Both of these films, as I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Top Gun was the same.
Yeah.
Had the full cooperation of the US Navy.
Yeah. And that was the inclusion of such intense inclusion of the Navy was one of the reasons that it actually got produced in the first place. I think they were finding it difficult to get funding.
And you can see that in this film in the sense that the way they photograph the naval procedures, the jets, the ships, I want to use the word. It's almost pornographic. Like it's basically Navy porn.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
It's how sexy these jets look when they go up into the sky, and you can see them against the horizon, and they look like spaceships or something. And they spend a really long time just like focusing on the Navy guys doing the stuff that they do on the deck of a ship, putting up the barriers so the planes can land, and they go through so many planes landing, and different scenarios, and spend a lot of time on that, a lot of shots.
Yeah,
really, actually, if you stop and analyze it, they don't add anything to the story.
No,
there's nobody on the jets of interest to us.
No, the only pilot that gets any kind of interest is James Farentino, who's rather Richard Owens, the mysterious benefactor of Martin Sheen at the start. Spoilers, but even then, it's so hokey and just thrown together. Like, he seems to be the person that the film wants you to empathize with, because he's the historian, and he's put across as someone who's like, oh yeah, the history, it's precious, and we should learn from it and learn about it. And he's given a heroic moment where he saves a dog from drowning, which you never fucking kill a dog. And then he's later kind of stranded. It's like, okay, so is he actually the main character? Because I don't know who is, except for the USS Nimitz.
Pretty much, the ship is a character, and
yeah,
I mean, certainly I can see why a production like this, it would be a massive boon to be able to get the Navy on board, to give them access to. How else are you going to get fucking access to an aircraft carrier? There aren't many of them sitting around.
Yeah.
So you're not going to film on an aircraft carrier pretty much unless the Navy says okay. Or maybe now you can, because they've got that one in New York. But so actually, they shot this at sea on the USS Nimitz. So to do that is a massive coup in a way, because it does add to a sense of authenticity to the film. It's quite obviously a real aircraft carrier, and there's a real jets doing real Navy shit. And that's actually quite an interesting angle on the film. Is like it's part documentary about life on an aircraft carrier. Like, I don't know if you noticed, there was a scene where they're sitting around playing board games and stuff like that, and there are guys going into the library and picking up books and taking them out and stuff like that. And like, it was kind of like, hey, this is life in the Navy, right? Like, it's not all work, it's play as well. You can
there was definite kind of like almost that element of, all right, you can use all of our stuff, but you need to show at least X amount of time of downtime where the guys are just having a good time, and it's just the lads in the mess hall just being normal. It's not all it's kind of an unusual kind of like when the other kind of big focused movie about a ship or a realistic environment that I think of is something like Das Boot, where it's so close and so kind of enclosed in all the tunnels and things like that. You don't really get any sense of that. It's almost like to show it a little too accurately is a bit of a detriment, and they kind of went, all right, you know what? We're just going to show the big areas that people hang out in, and we're going to have occasional shots of people running down corridors. It's the Hollywood look of a realistic way of life on a Navy ship.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing here is that and this is the double-edged sword of working with the US Navy, and I think it's true working with any branch of the US military, is that if they agree to let you use their shit and they agree to cooperate in production, they get a say in what goes on the screen. I mean, I don't think they get maybe they do get a final approval of the cut.
Yeah.
But they get a say, and they get to give you notes. And I think you look at the trivia on IMDb, but this film did get significant notes from the Navy, and a lot of changes were made at the request of the Navy.
Yeah.
This was, I'm not just bullshitting here, this was used as a recruitment tool for the Navy. as we will find with Top Gun after the movie had the movies and handing out patents to recruit you.
Yeah. So
there is a reason why this shit is in there, like scenes of soldiers borrowing stuff from the library and playing games. It's not there because it serves a story. It's there because it serves the U.S. Navy, who were essentially a co-producer of the film in a way.
Yeah. Going to a very simple question. Did you like it?
No, not really. Like it wasn't as bad as the Philadelphia Experiment.
No, especially considering the Philadelphia Experiment was 1984, 4 years after this, and this looks so much better. The quality of the production, the cinematography of it, immaculate, brilliant.
Except for the temporal anomaly. Like, that thing looks shithouse.
Yeah, that's true. That did look like original run Star Trek usage.
Yeah. That was but I mean, that was essentially the only special effect in the film. The other part I found really weird was how blasé they were about the fact. So spoilers, guys. At one point, the pilots on the ship actually shoot down a couple of Japanese Zero fighter planes, and they recover off screen, mind you. They recover a Japanese pilot from the water. That was surprising, and take him prisoner in a very lackadaisical sort of way. And in the process of this, they're trying to question him. He steals a gun. Like, how this fucking happened? He steals a gun from an MP or a soldier or a sailor on the ship and kills, I think, 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. And they seem to be entirely ill-equipped to be able to deal with this situation. Entirely.
Like, oh, no, well, I mean, there are people, he's got a gun, oh my God, what do we do? Like, I mean, what? Like, it's really, really odd. And not just the fact that it happens and they don't really seem to know what to do about it, is the fact that it happens and they go, oh, well, he shot some people.
Yeah, it's not really addressed at all after
it happened. Yeah. I mean, how do they tell those people's families? Oh, well, he was shot by a Japanese soldier. What?
It's a really weird little thing that they drop, considering the questions the characters are asking about, action and reaction. It's like, you want to just turn that in on yourself a little bit, just because you're not. Like, things just happen because they just happen, and I guess they're kind of trying to play. Maybe it's like the senator that they rescue, and how they have this throwaway line where he disappears just before the Pearl Harbor attack. It's like, okay, fair enough. Maybe he's going to be the mysterious benefactor later on. Probably not, because he's much, much older. But it's like, why would the senator just steal a flare and fire it in a helicopter? Why would he be willing to go down and die? It doesn't make any sense with the kind of character that we displayed. It's maybe
the story doesn't really tend to make a lot of sense. The story does things because the story needs them to happen.
Yeah.
And I talked about it last week. I'll mention it again. The Axis of Time trilogy by John Birmingham handles a whole very, very, very similar scenario to this. Is that it's a naval task force rather than an aircraft carrier. And he handles the whole story a lot better, in the sense that he doesn't look out and go, oh, temporal anomaly comes back at the end and they sail through, and they don't actually end up stopping Pearl Harbor. Whereas he actually, in his books, deals with the fact that they are stuck in the 40s, and it addresses the far sexier question here is, what would the US and they do cover this question a little bit in the story, in the film. What would the US look like post World War II if they had access to the technology that was on that ship? So they had 35, technology from 1980, and they got given it in 1941. What would the world look like in that 1980, if that makes sense. The fact that, with that jet Cold War, all these type of things are really interesting questions. And obviously, you probably can't deal with them in a 90-minute film.
Exactly.
It's much easier in 3 large books. But these are the kind of questions that this sort of story invites. And I think it'd be fun to see them answered.
Yeah, it's a real shame that they don't. I mean, looking at the Wikipedia page for the Final Countdown, it has a link to the Axis of Time trilogy, which is kind of funny that keeps coming up. But it seems like it's a tale of two stories, where part of it was like, I've got this really cool idea for a time travel movie, and I want it to be real deep thought, but I don't have the budget to do it, so I need to make it almost like a military funded puff piece. But then at the same time, you don't really get any action sequences or anything either.
Apart from the dogfight with the Zeros, that's about it.
Yeah, but even then, it's not entertaining, because it would be like me going up against primetime Mike Tyson in a boxing match. You know who's going to fucking win that. There's no surprise.
Mike's been in a good paddock for a while. I know what you mean. Like, I used to play a video game many years ago called Wing Commander. Wonderful game.
Yeah.
I upgraded this is the old days, people. I upgraded the processor in my computer significantly, and it got to the point where the game that worked perfectly at the old processor, it couldn't handle the new processor. So because the game became so fast, you actually couldn't control it. The ships would move so fast. Basically, that was what you were looking at. There was basically, you had the jets moving at 486 speed, and the Zeros moving at 286 speed. And this wasn't an even contest, you're right. But again, even those scenes were shot in a way like I said, almost pornographic about how sexy the US hardware was.
Slow motion, unnecessary recoiling of the wings of the jets and things like that. It was those sequences where they're showing off the tech they're really beautifully shot. Even by today's standards, they look good. And the most pornographic element of it is where they're refueling the jets. Like, wait a minute, how long have those jets been out? Maybe 5 minutes?
They're in the air for like about 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, it's such
they hadn't indicated. There's no insinuation. I don't know how often jets have to refuel, but I'd imagine it would be fairly. You'd have to stay up there for a while, right?
Yeah, and they surely couldn't have got so far away from the carrier that they couldn't have just gone, I'm running low on fuel, I better come back. No, we have to burn the fuel to get another ship up into the sky to refuel them. It just didn't make any sense. There was a lot of fluidity about time and distance, I think.
They're going to have a massive. There you go. A US Grumman F-14 Tomcat, which was I think were the jets in the film. Sorry, had a range of 3,000 kilometers.
Okay.
I doubt that jet flew 3,000 kilometers. So
yeah,
they really just put that refueling scene in there again to go, huh? How fucking cool is that?
Yeah. It was literally that of just like, yeah, you know what? Air Force One, everyone knows that can refuel in the air. We can do it too. That's cool, right? It's cool.
Man, you're right. They've been refueling in the air since the 60s, I think. I could be wrong, but like it's not a new tech, but it does look cool on film, right?
Yeah, but it is literally a point going into a hole, and even when it happens, the radio chatter, it's so comical. It would almost be fitting in like Airplane or something like that. So like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff. No!
In fact, I'm almost certain I've seen stock footage of in-air refueling used in a provocative manner like that.
Exactly. It was to a bizarre point, but we've spent almost 20 minutes, 25 minutes talking about the Final Countdown, and I think that we should move on to other things.
I would just like to know the evening, the useless fact of the evening.
Okay.
In-air refueling was invented in 1923.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Okay, somebody comes up in the street and asks you tomorrow, you know the answer.
That's
1923.
No one can say that they haven't learned something from Armchair Producers. Which, incidentally,
But
neither of us are in armchairs. Neither of us are producers. But you know what?
We produce this podcast.
Yeah. That's like saying people produce shit every day. Literally
It's
shit.
like parking in the loading zone, and when you get pulled up with a parking ticket,
Don't
you're like, what do I do when I buy stuff? I
with me again.
load it into the car, Your Honor. Yeah, no, it's. I think the takeaway message here is maybe give the final countdown a miss.
Yeah, I think so. I think even to, I kind of would say that if you were to put these two, last week's movie and this one together, I would probably say maybe watch the Philadelphia Experiment instead of this, because it's at least on the point where it's so bad it's kind of entertaining, whereas this one, it's not a good story, but it's kind of good if you're remotely interested in 1980s naval technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting little. If you're an airplane enthusiast,
Yeah,
then that's probably something you're going to get out of it. I saw, and you look at the IMDb reviews, there are a lot of people who say positive things about it. Very interested in what's going on the aircraft carrier and the planes and that procedural shit. So if you're like the aircraft version of a train spotter,
yeah,
then you're probably going to get something out of this. But other than that, I agree. Let's move on. I think you had a go at some new stuff this week on some of the streaming services.
Yeah, I have actually two new things. Well, I say new. One of them it's Swamp Thing, the classic character that has been turned into a movie at least twice, I think, maybe even 3 times. Is associated with the Justice League Dark, and was kind of really hit popularity when Alan Moore was given free rein and did a lot of stuff in the comic world. But this is from last year, produced by James Wan, the guy who went on to direct Aquaman. It's executive produced by Eric Kripke, who was one of the creators of the Supernatural series. And it's got Len Wiseman as one of the producers, and he directed the first 2 episodes of the series. And he did like Underworld and The New Dark Crystal and things like that. So it's got quite an interesting collection of people working on it. And this is definitely really going for that horror vibe, which it should, being Swamp Thing's kind of lineage. And it's actually pretty good. It has not really, apart from Virginia Madsen and Will Patton, there's not really any big names in it. I'm just going to bring them up now on IMDb.
Virginia Madsen sounds very familiar. I think she's one of those names. You look at that face and you go, I've seen her in stuff.
Yeah.
So when you see, like, if you're Sideways, I don't remember her in Sideways. I remember the film Sideways. She was in Dune, the 84 version, the David Lynch version, which only nerds like that. Designated Survivor, I think that's the one I remember her from.
Yeah, so she's been around, and she's definitely one of those faces that you go, oh, okay. Her character is very odd in the series. It's she starts off as a real fucking dick, frankly. She's just this just being a bitch for no true reason or no real justifiable reason, and I think it's designed to hate her. But the progress of her character over the season is kind of, well, yeah, I still don't fucking empathize with her the way that things end up for her at the end of the season, so I don't get her story arc. Will Patton is another face that you probably look at and go, oh yeah, it's that guy from fucking everything. He was in The Postman, he was in Armageddon. He's just been kind of a bit everywhere.
Yeah, he's is a face you. So I look at that face and I'm like, I've seen him in heaps of shit.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you one of them.
Yeah, I think the one that certainly stands out to me is Kevin Durant, who he played the character of Kimi in season 3 of Lost, and he's often turning up in a lot of Russell Crowe stuff because apparently they're good friends. And he is possibly the best part of this whole thing because he plays the character of Jason Woodrue, who is he's a very, very hyper intelligent, almost kind of Sheldon Cooper antisocial level of genius in specific areas of kind of mutagenics and things like that. And he's looking after his wife, who is also a doctor, but she has got Alzheimer's. And he's been drawn to the town of Moray, where this whole thing is set, to try and find a cure for her Alzheimer's, as well as just general cures for infinitesimal amount of things. Because the swamp in Moray has got unusual properties, and Will Patton's character, Avery Sunderland, has hired Kevin Durant's character to try and basically exploit this for profit, for gain. The two protagonists of the show, there's Abby Arcane, played by Crystal Reed, who I don't really know anything about her. She's got, she looks a little bit like Emily
Browning.
Yes. And the only thing that I know her from was Crazy Stupid Love. But she, she's pretty good in it. She certainly does a good job. And Andy Bean, who I've never seen or heard before, he plays the character of Alec Holland, who becomes the Swamp Thing, ultimately. And this is an interesting story because some elements of it are trying to just tell one story over the course of 10 episodes, which is the length of the season. But then there's elements of that kind of monster of the week kind of thing. And this whole show had a weird start. It got rave reviews when the first episode came out, but to kind of early screeners. And then before it aired, it got cancelled. And then it got kind of regenerated in some way for the streaming services exclusive, like DC Universe stuff, because this is one of the few TV shows of DC stuff that has the cinematic DCEU opener with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman all standing in a line and all of that stuff. So at one point, I think they had an interesting plan for this character, bring it in with the rest of the DCEU, which apparently has exploded, but time will tell on that. And Alec Holland is the main character. He becomes Swamp Thing, which is essentially a sentient avatar for Earth when all's said and done, because he is able to experience the memories and history of everything around this swamp area. He can plants can do anything at will. There's this carrot on the end of the stick for the whole show about the darkness growing, and there's a couple of episodes where they focus on it, but it hasn't been picked up for a second season, and it ends without any resolution to it. And it's really frustrating because overall I think they set up some really good stuff. The hour-long episodes, 10 episodes. It's a great length, really good quality production on it. Everyone's doing a good job making things look good and look scary, like Swamp Thing's powers and stuff. They're pretty fucking scary, and some of the shit that happens in it, it's kind of scary. It's not horrific, which I think they're kind of going for. It's that scary supernatural level of scare where it's like, okay, that could be scary for young kids. It's probably 15 rated. The only reason why this is M rated is because they say the word fuck. But it's a nice, pleasant level of ooh. There are moments where it got me, but at the same time, it's like, this is for me. This is what a lot of people would consider Doctor Who to be. Whereas, oh, it's scary for kids. It was actually really good, and I hope that it gets picked up for a second season. But it's an interesting one because I do love the original series. Alan Moore did a fantastic job of reinventing the character in particular, and for anyone who loves the Swamp Thing stories, they bring a lot of that kind of stuff in. There's even kind of I won't go into it in full detail because it's a bit of a spoiler for stories in the comics as well as in the thing. But they touch on some storylines. It's like, oh fuck, they're going there. Okay, cool. But yeah, I really rate it. I watched it on Foxtel. It's on HBO Max, I think, which is launching today or tomorrow in the US. Unfortunately, it's not coming here because fucking Foxtel. Yeah, that's all I really have to say on Swamp Thing. The other,
it's a thumbs up.
Yeah, it's definitely a thumbs up. I would even say if you've got a Foxtel or HBO Max membership, it's worth checking it out because the first episode does a fantastic job of giving you a very good taste of what it's going to be like for the rest of it. So if you get through the first, I'd say even it's a slow start because the first season is really kind of like the origin story of Swamp Thing. He becomes Swamp Thing by the end of the first episode, but it's still really good. And the chemistry between Crystal Reed and Andy Bean is fantastic. They're really good. They're really nice. And the mystery, the enigma that is the catalyst for the start of the series is interesting in its own right as well. I think if you kind of happily get past the 20-minute, half-hour mark, you'll probably enjoy the rest of the series. They set a good benchmark and generally stick to it. And looking at the review ratings for each episode, it's sitting at about 8.5, 8.6 throughout the series. So it's got a good, solid consistency to it. If you find that it's not digging in after the first 20 minutes or so, probably want to bounce. But if you kind of, all right, that's good, you're probably going to be entertained.
Yeah, it looks like he does make the character does appear in one of the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover episodes.
It's, I think it's apparently like some kind of just archival footage thing, like what they did with getting the Incredible Hulk footage into the first Avengers by having it just on a screen in when Tony Stark's looking at it. I don't think it's actually the character, because I haven't watched that, because the Crisis of Infinite Earth storyline, to watch it over here is a fucking mess. You need like 4 different streaming services. It's stupid.
I'll just steal it.
when you go into that ridiculousness, yes, steal it. Make it easy for people to fucking watch your stuff. Now, the other new thing that I want to talk about, I've only just really started. I'm halfway through episode 3. It's an Amazon Prime original called Upload.
I watched this week as well, and I finished it.
Yeah. What do you think?
It's actually pretty good. I find a lot of the Amazon Prime, actually I'd say a lot of streaming original stuff is pretty average on the whole. And Prime's certainly guilty of that. But this one's actually pretty good. It's an interesting idea.
Yep.
Well explored. So if you haven't encountered Upload, I just encountered it on the actual app, right? I didn't actually know what it was. And I thought, oh, we'll see what that is.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's set in the near future in a world where we had invented the ability to, at your point of death, take a copy of your consciousness, essentially, a digital copy, and upload it to the cloud. If you have seen the Black Mirror episode San Junipero.
Yeah.
It's been done in a lot of different ways, but the same basic premise as San Junipero from Black Mirror, and you're uploaded to the cloud. Where it differs from, say, San Junipero is this is a much more capitalistic version of a future where this service is now offered essentially for profit.
Yeah.
And much like society while you're alive, society post-death is also certified by class.
Yes.
Where we have a particular character. I'm going to look it up now. I forget his name because, like, I should probably remember it after watching all 10 episodes. But probably wasn't that memorable. Nathan Brown, because that is the most memorable name in the history of names. Played by Robbie Amell, who, interestingly, is the cousin of the guy who plays Arrow.
Yes.
Stephen Amell. So he is seeing his girlfriend Ingrid, played by Allegra Edwards, who I've never heard of. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of half into this relationship. He's not all the way in. He's sort of half thinking about ending it. And then he's in a car crash, a self-driving car crash, which is apparently unheard of in this future.
Yes.
And he is taken to hospital. And his girlfriend basically convinces him and the doctors to upload him at that point in time, despite the fact there being a very open question about whether he was dying or not. So the process of being uploaded basically blows your head up or burns your head off.
Yep.
So you can't be uploaded without dying.
Yep. So
basically the process of being uploaded kills you. And he is uploaded to using her. She is from money.
Yep.
And uses her plan, so to speak. Her family has paid for access to for family members to have access to a very exclusive upload community after they die. And using her plan, so to speak, he's uploaded to this very exclusive, very swish community. And we follow his journey through getting used to it. We meet his customer service agent from the company, Horizon.
Yep.
Who is basically referred to as his angel, basically your guide through, getting used to being uploaded.
Yep.
And she's played by Zainab Johnson. Is it Zainab? It's Andy Allo.
Yes.
Plays Nora. She's wonderful in this, and I've never heard of her before.
No, me neither.
And I think I've seen anything she's done before. So she was in a Pitch Perfect movie. Great. I wouldn't be surprised to see her pop up somewhere because I thought she was wonderful in this.
Yeah.
The undercurrent to all this is to see the insinuation that while he was alive, Nathan was working on a technology that would allow anyone to be uploaded for free.
Yes.
So you didn't need money to be uploaded as you do now. And there's an insinuation that it was this research and this threat to a very profitable industry that might have actually seen him murdered.
Now, I love the inside joke of the fact that suggestion came from the cigarette-smoking man from X-Files.
Yeah.
I did.
He played a very thinly veiled reference to a real person, by the way.
Yeah.
He plays David Choke.
Yes.
I'm fairly certain that's a reference to the Koch brothers, one of which is dead.
Yeah.
I can only hope the other one follows him soon. So these are half-hour episodes.
Yes.
So I like that in this kind of show. I mean, you obviously felt that the Swamp Thing could support an hour's, each story could support an hour's worth of story.
Yes.
I don't think this is a lot less substantial than that, right? This is a fairly light show.
Yeah.
And I feel like it keeping it to a half hour keeps them bite-sized and fresh.
Yeah.
And they don't overstay their welcome.
Correct. And I think it's very telling with the style of comedy that they're putting into this. I think, if I remember rightly, one of the creators, Greg Daniels, I think he had something to do with The Office, the American version. He was a writer for The Office, Parks and Rec, King of the Hill.
And Parks and Rec, King of the Hill.
Yeah. That sense of comedy runs through this a lot. And there's I got some kind of echoes of Brain Dead, that show that we watched.
A little bit.
Just some of the very kind of, this is not funny, but the audience will find it funny. Like, there's a bit where they're trying to download someone's consciousness back into a 3D printed body, and 3D printing is big in this new world. And he seems fine and everything, and then his head just literally pops in the most sort of like Scanners style experience that you've seen in a long time on TV. And it's funny. It's just funny. No one else is laughing. No one in that world is laughing. No one finds that funny. It is strictly comedy.
Yeah, it's a very dry comedy. This I'd say it's not played for laugh out loud moments. Like there's no studio audience. It's not The Big Bang Theory.
Almost it's a little bit upgrade that they can get for a live studio audience for their things.
Yeah, that would be interesting. It's played. It is playing trying to be a social satire.
Yes.
At the same time as being a fairly entertaining, broad sci-fi comedy. Like there's, comedy about things like the use of Tinder. The app in this show is Nightly. The character, as I sort of said, David Koch. The idea of having to pay extra for everything, or at one point, Nathan chooses to basically move out of the very rich, very posh after the upload world he's been moved into, and his mum has to put him on basically a chip or like a motherboard and take him to a travel agent to explore new places for him to live. And one of them is just like Panera, Facebook, Safari, or something like that. It's lots of little Easter eggs if you're paying attention.
Yeah,
are scattered throughout the show, and it's essentially it's a social satire using that murder plotline to try and move the actual story along with the spoilers here, people. The love story between Nathan and Nora. We start to develop throughout the show, and the other thing it kind of reminded me of a little bit was Her. The Spike Jonze, Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson film from, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago or something. Obviously, Her is playing it a lot more intellectual because it's Spike Jonze.
Yeah,
it's also a lot better than this. But just that whole angle of like basically a love story between a virtual entity and a real life person, and sort of playing it off, exploring that idea is something. I mean, I like, one of the things I like about the show is you sort of go, there's somebody somewhere working on this, right?
Yeah.
Someone's working real hard to invent this.
Yeah.
The other thing it reminded me of, it was a Philip K. Dick novel that explored a similar idea. Fuck me if I can remember the name of it, but there was a Philip K. Dick novel where you could go to a place and talk to your dead relatives.
Ubik? Is that Ubik?
Is it Ubik? I don't know. I've read a lot of his books. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That should be considered a compliment, by the way. If your TV show makes me think of a Philip K. Dick novel, then I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
But I really liked it. I would hope that there is a second season of this very much.
Apparently, it has been picked up for a second series, so good. I also liked, not only is it asking, kind of positing a lot of interesting questions about the afterlife, and there's a throwaway line of, which afterlife are you going to? Which heaven are you going to? They're like, okay, so there's the Horizon one. You can imagine there'll be like the T-Mobile and that sort of stuff. And it's like that kind of thing. I think is funny, but it's also got a lot of kind of jokes in it that gamers will like. There's early on, there's a reviewer who's kind of talking about the texture of the water kind of feeling grainy, and the fact that it's just a 2-second GIF map loop of water, and it's like, there
are a lot of people on right now, so you can notice this frame rate's dropping.
Yeah, so there's lots of these little visual kind of sort of like game designer jokes in there that you're sort of like, yeah, and it's fun.
It is. It's a good little show. I mean, there's almost nobody in it you've seen anywhere else. I don't think I recognize anybody on this show except for probably, as you said, Smoking Man.
Yeah.
But they all seem very competent. They play their roles well. It's well written the shows are tightly directed. The special effects, whatever they're there, look pretty good.
Yep.
As I sort of said, I think the important thing here is that they haven't tried to bite off more than they can chew.
No.
Go for 1 hour episodes or anything. It's half hour episodes. I mean, yes, chewed through. I enjoyed it very much. And light and refreshing to break up.
Absolutely.
Keep your insanity quiet until you can go outside again, or is a new season of Tiger King.
I'm refusing to watch anything Tiger King, just because.
I watched a few episodes. It wasn't really that great. It was okay.
All right, I've talked for a bit. What have you watched? What have you consumed?
That's pretty much it. Upload's been kind of it for me. I guess the only other thing I would say is I did pick up a new game this week, and it's about zombie Nazis. And I think it's clicked into something I've seen you playing. You've been playing a bit of Sniper Elite, right?
Yeah, this is the fun version of that. Yeah.
I haven't played Sniper Elite, so Sniper Elite is on Game Pass, yes?
Yes.
So I've been playing Zombie Army Trilogy.
Okay.
And I think it started the spin-off, or is it DLC or a spin-off to Sniper Elite, but apparently it's the only one that anybody actually enjoys. Because Zombie Army is not on Game Pass. It costs $60 on Xbox still, which is kind of ridiculous, but them's the breaks. But it is kind of fun. Zombie Nazis are fun.
Yeah.
It's not very. I mean, I don't know what you've found with Sniper Elite, but it basically, as I can tell, kind of really just plonks that game's mechanics with different enemies to kill. Essentially, enemies you don't shoot back. So it's still kind of fun, but it seems limited.
Yeah.
So you are essentially working your way. The story for what it is that everyone in Germany now is a zombie for some reason, and you're trying to work your way through country journey to Berlin. I got through to the second part, which is in Berlin, and you're working your way through an urban environment, through buildings and streets and alleyways and basements. And you're constantly harassed by zombie Nazis. And the most efficient way to kill them with most zombies is, of course, to shoot them in the head. Now, this is where I guess there's the Sniper Elite sort of mechanic comes in. It's sort of a sniper simulator kind of thing. And your main weapon is a sniper rifle. You're equipped with either a shotgun or a submachine gun and a pistol. And some explosives, and you've got to fight off waves of zombie Nazis. I mean, I'm playing it on easy because I've never played this game before in my life, and I'm terrible at shooters at the best of times. So I'm just sort of trying to get used to it at this point in time. But yeah, after playing it for a few hours, you kind of realize that there's not a whole lot of variety. You're basically you're basically fighting large mobs of zombies, slow-moving zombies.
Yep.
So the basic tactic is, if they're in a big group, and skeletons, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but they're there. If you're in a big group and there's something explosive nearby, shoot it and it'll blow a whole bunch of them up, or throw a grenade and blow a whole bunch of them up. Otherwise, you basically get as far away from the mob of zombies as possible. And work on kicking off with headshots.
Yes.
And if they start to get a little bit too close because they're quite slow moving, run past them to the other end of the area, turn around and start again, and then repeat.
Yeah.
Until you have picked off enough of them that you can maybe go clean up with a shotgun or something.
Yeah. So basically, the Zombie Army Trilogy is the equivalent of what they did with. Did you ever play the Burnout series of racing games?
I might have played one of them.
So, universally, the most popular part of the Burnout games was Crash Mode, where you just charge. It was essentially a puzzle thing where you had to you earn points for how big of a collision that you create in this scenario. And that was the best part of the Burnout series, and they did one that was essentially just exclusively that. It was too much a bit quickly. And then the next thing they did was Burnout Paradise, and they basically got rid of Crash, and it just didn't work. This is the Zombie Army trilogy is essentially taking the most popular element of the Sniper Elite series, which is the X-ray shooting. So like, oh, I got a headshot, and you see this like slow motion skull brain popping, or testicle shot, or going through the heart, or going through multiple people. And it's like, yeah, people love that. Okay, let's make a game that focuses entirely on that. And it's like, yeah, that's fun for a little while. Doing exactly.
Yeah, I think the only actual mechanic that they've picked that actually added so far is occasionally there's a level where there's somebody shooting at you from another sniper, shooting at you from a tower or something. And I'm like, I haven't quite figured out why those zombies have figured out how to use sniper rifles.
Because
it's not explained. Because. Yeah. And then there are other elements where there are like bosses, I guess, or mini bosses, who are essentially against zombie Nazis who have figured out how to fire machine guns at you. And unlike every other zombie in the game, take about a dozen headshots to bring down. Again, there's no explanation in the game exactly what they are, why they can shoot a gun, or why they take so many more shots to kill. They just do.
Yep.
And obviously, because they have a ranged attack, they're significantly higher danger to you as a player.
Yeah.
You can't just sit at the other end of the room and slowly pick them off like that, because they'll kill you before they get close enough for that to happen. So you got to constantly kind of be moving and waiting for your health to pop and come back. And it's fine. Some friends of mine play it online. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to try the multiplayer with them, but maybe the multiplayer is more fun. It's not fun, but it's not revolutionary either.
It's very samey.
Again, not worth $60. I'll say that much. Not so far, anyway. I'm enjoying it. It's kind of fun, as you sort of say. The actual core game loop is fun.
Yeah,
but it's just it's severely limited.
Yeah,
for a game they're still charging $60 for.
That's the criticism of the whole Sniper Elite series, and they in the latest one that I've been playing quite a lot of, they're trying to expand it by making the levels much, much bigger. But that's not the fun element, because you end up spending fucking ages running from one side of the map to the other, because it's really easy to kill everyone. And you clear out an area, and then you move on to the next area. And if you kill everyone, but if you forget to pick up the particular item that you need in that specific area, you have to run all the way fucking back. And movement in the games is awful. Slow, the camera angle doesn't quite work right, and you've always got to run, and the heart rate is like, and it's just frustrating. So you don't want to do it. In the Sniper Elite 3, where I think they got the sweet spot, most of the levels were kind of narrower streets and things like that, and you felt like you could just duck into sort of like buildings and get a nice high nesting spot and shoot out. And you were able to kind of generally complete the vast majority of a mission from like 3 or 4 spots, and you just kill the people, and then you go through and get your bits. It was more fun. Making a bigger map does not work for this game. And yeah, you end up, there's no point for Sniper Elite or for Zombie Army putting the difficulty up high, because it doesn't add to the fun. It doesn't add extra challenge or anything like that. It's like, yeah, it's just the same. It's just they take more shots. The same techniques work. Yeah, it's just harder there's no real reward for it. It's way more fun to play it on easy mode and just shoot.
You're like a badass. That's what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's got to be some danger there. I mean, I guess I could see putting it up to maybe a normal or a little bit harder, because, I don't know, don't die often, right?
Yeah.
It's, as I said, it's not that difficult to sort of go, oh, they're getting pretty close. I'll just run past them to the other end of the alleyway and keep picking them off. Oh, they're getting a little close. Run back down the other. Not the end World War Z. I should note that I've tweeted the creators of World War Z twice now about the fact that one of their expansion missions crashes every single time.
Yeah.
And not received a response. So, boo to you, World War Z producer. Considering I paid for that.
And you didn't need to either. Well, you didn't need to buy the, I'm just going to shut up.
I didn't need to buy the DLC. I did it because I enjoyed the rest of the game.
Yeah. It was a complimentary purchase.
and one of your missions crashes every time. But apparently it's just me. Because I can't find anything else about it online. So,
the French map, yeah?
Sorry?
So the French
map, Marseille map, mission 2, crashes every single time at exactly the same point in the mission.
I looked at that last week, and apparently they're working on a fix. I saw a few people on Reddit talking about it, but they've not said anything in the two weeks that it's been a known problem. But for
disappointing.
2 weeks having a persistent bug like that's not good.
Well, yeah, I mean, but again, I haven't found a lot of people have it. But yeah, because obviously I can't find a whole lot of mentions about it. But I cleared KJ down, uninstalled the game, and reinstalled a whole freaking 20 gigs of it, and it's still doing it. So I don't know what more can be done, but that's World War Z, and I've moved on from one zombie game on to the next zombie game. It's what I do. But it's other than that, I have gone back to playing a lot of Overwatch.
Oh yes.
It's the fourth year anniversary now of Overwatch.
Wow. That means it was 4 years ago that I was playing the other one that died.
What was that? Battleborn.
Yes.
And what the funny thing is that it's still very easy to get a game on Overwatch. I can get a game in under 2 minutes most of the time.
All right.
You have to wait 10 minutes for a game if you're a DPS character because they're so popular. So it's I think that's a real compliment to the game, right? The fact that they've kept it fresh, fresh enough to keep players on board for 4 years now. And I guess it's getting bigger and bigger in the esports scene. I guess right now, I mean, esports is pretty much one of the very few sports that's still going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just going to say, it's. I think part of it is they have been very, very good about really making everything that they bring out, all the new characters and things like that. It's really all encompassing. They do these really well animated CGI story elements that kind of build out a little bit of the mythos behind characters and the world and the lore, and it just looks and it kind of feels really fun to play. I am so intrigued of trying it, but I am awful at these games, and I know that I will be shat out quicker than anything in existence.
See, I dispute that, and I continue to dispute that, and I am terrible at shooters. But that's why I don't play as a DPS character. That's the cool. I think that's what I mean. I don't know. I've never played many other MOBA games, other than Apex Legends, where basically it's a battle royale, right? Overwatch is different as a hero team shooter.
Yeah.
Where so I play mainly as a support character. So, and that's where I think you could actually, if it's ever on special or they have a free-to-play weekend or something, you should definitely give it a go, because you don't actually need to be very good at shooting people, because I'm pretty bad at it.
Okay.
But what you find you might be able to do is be, like myself. I'm not saying I'm going pro anytime soon, but I can hold my own. I can hold my own as a support character. Whose job is, as a healer, for example, keeping the other players alive. Or you might find yourself might be better off playing as a defensive character, like a tank.
Yeah.
Basically job is to block damage and, take and attract attention and that kind of thing. So that's why I think Overwatch, or one of the reasons that it's done so well, is you're right. They keep it fresh. Characters and maps are always free. But also on top of that, I find it's a really diverse gaming experience in the sense that, like unlike something like Apex Legends or Fortnite, it's not a battle royale game. It's not all about killing every other player. It's a team game, and you actually, as a team player, can do a number of different roles.
Yeah.
And, essentially, as a healer, there's absolutely zero expectation on me to kill other characters. So it is helpful occasionally. You can flip out your pistol because no one expects you to shoot at them. It can be actually quite an effective tactic occasionally to pull out your pistol and attack somebody because they're not expecting it, even though you don't necessarily do a whole lot of damage. So that's what I enjoy about it, and that's why I can actually go back to it, is a sense that as opposed to something like Apex Legends, which I enjoyed, but I was just awful at that game. This is a game where if you're not good at killing players, and you can still contribute and actually have fun and find yourself, like, a good healer is worth their weight in gold. So it's you don't have to be good at shooting games to play it and enjoy it. There's a lot of different ways you can play it.
Yeah.
You don't have to play competitive. Seriously, I watched some of the dudes who play competitive, like the pro ones. You're like, fuck me dead. That's scary good. But you get if you decide you wanted to play competitive, you do qualifying matches, and it realizes how bad I am, and make sure I only play against characters who are as bad as I am.
I just have this image. So, like, are you sure you want to do this?
What it does, it gives you a skill rating.
Okay.
You play 5 games as a whatever character you are.
Yeah.
And to qualify for the season of competitive, and at the end of those 5 games, it gives you a skill rating.
Okay.
I've got no idea how it actually figures it out. It does. A lot of it has to do with your win or lose, which I think is silly because a lot of the times I've got a lot to do with that. But you get the skill rating, and mine's not high. It is not good. Then it's not going to put you. So my skill level rating is silver, I think. It's not going to put you in matches with silver or diamond players. Sorry, diamond or platinum players.
Yeah.
You're going to be playing with silver, maybe gold if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And that means they're going to be at my level.
I think my heyday for shooting games was GoldenEye and Perfect Dark on the N64.
A different kind of experience for sure.
That was Proto Man. Or Doom and Duke Nukem.
Yeah. Well, Duke Nukem, Jesus Christ. This is a different kind of experience. I'd just like to say that, like, as multiplayer games go, it's pretty good. It's fun. Obviously, I've been playing it for 4 years, so I'm going to be biased and say it's good. But I just go again to say you don't have to be good at shooting games to be good at this game.
Yeah.
There are a number of different ways you can play and the roles you can play in your team to actually contribute to your team winning.
Okay. Do you think you're going to invest eventually when they bring out Overwatch 2? Because they've said stuff about the kind of transitioning it all in together. So the progress that you make in number 1 will be able to somehow carry over to number 2 and things like that. Do you think you'll keep playing?
I mean, I keep coming back to it, right? Like that's the appeal of multiplayer games, I guess, for gaming companies, your Blizzards and stuff, is that, people, it's not like a game like Red Dead Redemption where, apart from their overall online version, which apparently sucks, is where once I've finished a solid single player mission, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in going back and playing it again.
Yeah.
I know you can do for completionist reasons, or some people will, but there's not a whole lot of appeal. I've finished it. I've done the game, and that's the main thrust of that thing is the story. Whereas Overwatch, it's almost like a hobby. You can jump in and just play with. It doesn't even have to be with friends because I don't know anyone who plays it. You can just jump in and play with a bunch of randos and have a couple of matches and be done in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's fun. So I guess that's the appeal of an online multiplayer game, is that if I was paying money for it in some way, I was buying loot boxes or something stupid. The gaming company has it. I keep coming back every time I think I'm done with Overwatch. I put it away for a year and then come back to it because it's distracting.
Sign of a good thing.
Fun. It's everything about it is done so well. So I guess I would have a look at Overwatch 2 if it comes out. I mean, if it comes out and they're like this, if every review is like this is a steaming pile of dog turds, No Man's Sky initial launch style, or Destiny original launch, people are like, this is fucked, leave it alone, and they'll wait until they fix it. Then I doubt it, but I would certainly be very keen to have a look at it because they've done so well with the first game. And if Blizzard are working on it now, I would hope they're working, because they spent several years working on Overwatch originally, and I think that paid off at launch because it was so well balanced and so well put together.
True.
So if they spend a similar amount of time and sort of a similar level of quality, I kind of wonder what Overwatch 2 would be. Overwatch now doesn't really resemble the original game terribly much.
Well, the closest thing that I have as a simile is Splatoon and Splatoon 2 on Nintendo Wii and Switch. And there's not a huge amount of difference between the Wii U and Switch versions, except there's just a lot more. Like, they brought in Salmon Run, which is like your horde mode, and they brought in other different team games and things like that. The core essence of what makes the game fun is still the same, but the improved frame rate, the quicker lobbies, the extra bits and pieces that they put onto it, and the more kind of, I guess, old school Simpsons idea of cursory, anyone can watch this, but the more you look at it, the more adult jokes you get out of it, kind of thing. The deeper you want to go into those pools, the more you're going to get. Like the pros in Overwatch, friend of the show Patrick, he shows me some of the kill runs that he's done. It's like, what? I don't know how do you move the camera that quickly, let alone how do you kill that many people? I don't know how you do that. You break the game somehow. It's impressive. But at the same time, I for a brief, 5 seconds, I was actually kind of good at Splatoon 2. And there were people going, I don't know how you did that. So neither do I, but I did it. So I think it's going to be, I don't think that Overwatch 2 is, unless it brings in some interesting new modes, I don't know whether it's going to bring in the first game came out and it was a huge success straight away and millions and millions of people joined up. I don't know if it's going to have that same kind of uptick or if it's just going to be people transferring over. I don't know if there's going to be that ability to we're also putting a single player element into it. That would bring a whole new group of people into it. I think it's no, in spite of it being a big market that love Overwatch and how it has transcended a lot into Funko Pops and that sort of stuff, I don't know if anyone beyond that pool is really going to be interested who isn't already invested in some way.
I guess potentially you could bring back people who had a look at it, played it for a year, 2 years, said, yeah, that's cool, but I think I'm done.
Yeah. I
and if they gave us some sort of reason, I mean, the danger they've got is we're talking about, what do you get now? You get new maps, new game modes, new characters, regular changes to the format.
Yeah.
All of that comes for free in Overwatch 1.
Yeah.
So the problem they've got right now is, do they go, okay, no more updates. This is it. This is the final version of Overwatch 1. If you want to have any new characters, any new modes, any new maps, they will only be available in Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Which would probably, I guess, present an argument for people to buy it.
Yeah.
Would piss off a lot of people because they've been getting it for free for 4 years.
Yeah.
But you got to give them a reason to buy it.
Yeah.
Maybe they release Overwatch 2 on the new generation of consoles only.
Maybe.
It's never been about the graphics, so.
No, I mean the graphics are purposefully kind of ageless. They're very stylized in a specific way that you look at the launch trailer for the first time it came out to now, and the stuff that they're putting out, the early tease stuff that they're doing for Overwatch 2, the graphic style has not changed. The frame rate and the fluidity of animation is improved it's drastically over that time. But it's kind of got this ageless look to it, a lot like so many Mario games, where it's like, okay, it's got this particular style. Going back to like an original Assassin's Creed, for example, which when it first came out, it's like, oh, it's so realistic. A year, 2 years after the fact, you go, oh no, yeah, that's kind. I guess that's kind of the genius of Overwatch, is using that kind of timeless image, that timeless look, to give it that extra longevity, where it's not going to be a position where people are going back to it 2 years later, 3 years later, and go, it's just not as good looking. Whereas when you look at something that is more story focused, like The Last of Us 2 is coming out for PlayStation 4 next month, in a couple of weeks, I think, that the graphics of that look phenomenal. But, a year or 2 years down the line, there's going to be other things that just make it look comparatively crap. And it's the story that is the important part. But story-based games don't have, historically, they don't have much repeat value, repeat play. So, you kind of put all your eggs into one basket for a story mode versus something like this, which is designed to last multiple years. If Overwatch was amazing, realistic looking characters and perfect hair movement on all of the gorilla and stuff like that, it's like, it's probably not going to age as well, and people aren't going to want to play it 2 years.
Right. Borderlands is another example, right? Like those stylized graphics don't seem to age as badly as something that looked amazingly realistic. Remember the GoldenEye 64 looked, oh wow, so realistic, and now you look at it like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting challenge. I'm sure people at Blizzard, actually, I have absolutely no confidence after the last couple of years of their behavior. People at Blizzard have much of an idea about what the fuck they're doing at all about.
Diablo Mobile didn't do your thing?
You don't have phones. No, but Overwatch Mobile, that's probably what they're bloody working on. We will see. Will I buy it? It'll depend on what they bring to the table. I would think there'd be a lot of people would be inclined to keep playing the old version unless there was a good reason to buy the new one.
True.
But you have to think, with a title like that, with such as a huge title like Overwatch 2 would be, they'd have to bring something big to get you to buy it.
Yeah. For something like that, I don't think they'd be able to replicate the success that they had just by saying, oh, it's prettier. No.
Because you're in Battle Royale mode.
Probably. I reckon that they're going to do some kind of story mode, or some kind of story mode that is more based around like a horde mode kind of thing, where it's you and your squad versus the villains of the world of
They've done that. They've done that from time to time.
Yeah.
Not consistently. It was not a consistent mode like that. There have been special events where you've been able to play as a team to PvE sort of missions against bots, which have almost had a story attached to it. But that's the interesting thing about it sometimes. About the game is like the characters have these conversations sometimes where you're waiting for the game to start, going, remember the battle that we had here in London and the Omnics did all that shit? You'd be like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. There's like a 2-minute video when you start the game that explains the story, and that's it. Like the story is scattered throughout, and the story has been scattered through events that they've had over the years, but essentially nobody cares. Yeah. There was talk of a TV show at one point in time. I don't know whatever happened to that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, it's a game where the lore doesn't matter. You're right. Maybe a single player campaign would be something.
Yeah.
But would that keep been playing it now for 4 years because there's a story mode campaign, single player to worry about it for the last 4 years?
Okay, just doing a quick Google search for Overwatch TV show. The top hit is a live-action sci-fi action series based on the FPS video game. Show is developed by Edgar Wright, Jeffrey Kaplan, Michael Chu, and executive produced by J.J. Abrams. I don't know if that's actually real, though, because that's on ideas.fandom.com. However, there seems to be a few more concrete rumors about Netflix animated TV version.
That's what I had heard.
Yeah. So who knows? Who knows?
We'll see. It's probably missed its moment, to be honest.
I don't know if they time Overwatch 2 with the release of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X mountain thing, whatever they call it now. They could ride a new wave, and especially if it comes at the end of this year when people are really just wanting to be so sociable, and if that's a big thing, bring the animated show in, and maybe even incorporate some kind of things into it, like, for fuck's sake, the trailer, the true launch for the trailer for Chris Nolan's new movie, Tenet, premiered in fucking... Yeah.
I saw the first 5 minutes of Tenet last year when I saw Star Wars at IMAX.
Yeah.
I have to see this film. I cannot wait to see this film. Whenever it's released. Interesting, we were having a conversation last week about cinemas. There's a story that Victoria has now given a date for the reopening.
Oh, really?
22nd of June.
Okay.
With obviously restrictions about numbers and that kind of thing. But a lot of cinemas have kind of said, we don't know if we'll actually open. Not that they don't necessarily want to open. They've got nothing to show. They've got no products.
Yeah.
And there may not be any products until, I guess, it's the summer in the US. That's a good thing because they might actually... if enough cinemas open over there, they might actually release some of their stuff that they've been sitting on. But it'll be interesting to see a lot of the other cinemas around the place that aren't quite as picky about it, the non-multiplexes, I think you'd call them.
Yeah.
Talking about, classic films, other films like Warren Miller's ski films I heard mentioned and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll be going back to the cinema soon here in Victoria. And I would hope Tenet was originally going to be released in July. So I guess there's still a slim hope that may happen.
That is, I think that's a lot of people are kind of saying that's like Chris Nolan has gone on to say that he doesn't want to release it digitally before cinemas because he is staunchly into the big screen experience. And a lot of people are really kind of gunning with that date in mind to say, like, we need to get economies back up and running and people out in line with this movie for the cinema, because I think everyone is interested at the very least in this movie because of Chris Nolan's pedigree, because it's one of his mind-bending blockbusters. They always get a lot of praise and success. If that movie doesn't get people out to the cinema to see it, it's a really bad case for cinema. Yeah,
well, I mean, the interesting thing is we've approached it on other weeks is that they that distancing part, like, will it be economical for cinemas to open? We will see. The only thing I wanted to quickly address with you this week, from my perspective, was they apparently announced today that over the last couple of days that they will finally be doing the sequel to Labyrinth. And Scott Derrickson has been attached as the director.
Mm-hmm.
Your take on this, sir?
I could not care less. Much like Toy Story 4, I have not watched it. I'm sure that it is a perfectly fine, perfectly cromulent movie. I don't need that, so I finished the Toy Story saga at end of Toy Story 3 because it made me cry like a baby 12 times. I don't need any more, but anyone who wants to watch it, I'm happy it's out there for them. This, I don't need a sequel to Labyrinth. I can't picture what that's going to be without David Bowie. And it's like, okay, so how is this going to be a sequel? Is it going to be equal in name only because it's like, oh, it's another girl or a boy who has their baby that they're looking after taken by a new Goblin King? I don't know what to expect from this at all. The Labyrinth is entirely a movie that I would never have thought, yeah, let's make a sequel. I don't know. I just don't see what that could be because David Bowie's gone. Jennifer Connelly is much older and she's in The Snowpiercer at the moment on Netflix, which not great. I lost interest after 5 minutes. So yeah, Scott Derrickson is an interesting choice. The fact that he has got a legacy in that darker stuff, that kind of goes back to that old school Jim Henson, scarier kind of thing. That gives me a bit of hope that it could be something kind of good. But I don't know what it is, so I have no real thoughts on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I
guess it's a case of wait and see what they come up with, but you'd be color us skeptical.
Yeah. I mean, they did a fine job overall for the Dark Crystal. I think that it kind of reaches a little bit too far for its first season, and some of it just doesn't work overall. But I think they told a compelling story, and I am interested. But that's also a world that had loads of other possible stories involved. The Labyrinth is actually a very microscopic view of this moment in a young girl's life, and all of the key players in it, they're not around anymore in the capacity that they were. So it would just be a completely different series. I just do not know what kind of story they would tell as a sequel.
I shudder for the person who has to play the Bowie role. Like, and surely he can't remake Labyrinth without the Goblin King.
You know what? Tilda Swinton.
I've heard Lady Gaga's name mentioned.
She's not bad, but I'd rather Tilda Swinton out of those two.
Yeah, Tilda will be fine, but she can't sing, can she?
True. That would be an interesting one if there is a song element to it, because they're not particularly popular as a genre, especially after the disaster that was Cats. They're more kind of on the Oscar side of cinema than just general fantasy fare. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's yet another one of those, like, well, it was a built-in audience for this, so we'll make it. Netflix will give them $100 million, and yeah, there'll be some people out there who say it's good no matter what.
Yeah. I know people who are ridiculously popular and positive about all of the sequel stuff that comes out. I'll just wait and see, because I've been burned too many times, man, and it's been confirmed now that James Mangold is going to direct the next Indiana Jones movie, and he is a perfectly good, solid director, but everything else involved in that project is like, I don't need a sequel to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and I certainly can't see what that product is. I can't envisage what that's going to look like.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's we knew this was coming. We knew this day was coming when they bought Lucasfilm.
Yeah. No, we knew this day was coming specifically when they managed to get Harrison Ford back to play Han Solo, because that was the check they had to write to get him back.
They would have done it even if they couldn't have got Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is a bonus. But yeah, we always knew this was coming, and it's the expectations for the fourth Indiana Jones film are going to be exceedingly high. So I don't envy anyone who has to try and make it.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill struggle. It really is. Then there are examples of great movies decades after the fact which are phenomenal. Like I rewatched the new Blade Runner, and still brilliant. Absolutely on Netflix.
It was. They got themselves a filmmaker, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
They didn't just set out to make a picture that was going to make a lot of money. They kind of did the opposite.
Yeah. It's almost like, hey, do you want to make a passion project that may make some money at the box office? Yes.
I don't know how we got the money for that. And Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling, I guess, were what got it with the money to make that thing. And now he's making Dune. It's going to be exactly the fucking same. Because no one ever made money off Dune before.
Except Frank Herbert, the original writer.
No one else made it from a Dune film, shall I say.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that because he's got a stellar cast involved. He is phenomenally talented. He's been planning this movie for a long time, I think, and I think there's going to be something special. But yeah.
Yes, Denis Villeneuve hasn't really made a bad film yet. I mean, some people didn't like Arrival. I didn't think it was amazing, but he hasn't really put the foot wrong yet. So, Denny would try. I think that would be your response. I think every response on the internet today was kind of like, Labyrinth sequel? Really? Bowie's dead. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I will be very pleased if Scott Derrickson surprises me. He seems a competent director.
Yeah.
Not outstanding.
Yeah. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about, I think that's the show, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it. To quote the birdhead hat in Labyrinth. Next week we'll talk about the Navy recruitment tool that was Top Gun.
If anyone has any suggestions for movies that they want us to watch, whether they're old ones or new ones, let us know in the comments on Facebook, on Twitch, on YouTube, because you can view us live. If you're not watching us live right now, you can watch us live on facebook.com/George Darren, twitch.tv/The Fried Brain, and on YouTube, just search Fried Brain Productions. You can find us there as well, or you can watch us after the fact on all of those platforms, as well as your standard podcast services, which is Apple, Spotify. May be able to get this onto Google finally. I may have found a loophole.
Wow.
And of course, whooshka. But until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I have been George Tarrant. That has been Travis Croft. We are the Armchair Producers. This is the podcast out of 5 out of 7 Russian bots recommend. Until next time, good night.
Good night.